Hey folks, so over the last few weeks, I've obviously been doing a lot of testing in Legion Remix leveling. I am currently working on a leveling guide, which I'm hoping to have out in a few days, but the problem I keep running into is every single time I feel like I'm about to finish the leveling guide, someone recommends a brand new strategy, or I just stumble upon one myself. And as of a few hours ago, I finished a 10 to 80 run in 35 minutes and 47 seconds, which is just kind of absurd. The only problem is that the strategy that I used for it is just ludicrously broken and isn't really practical for the vast majority of players, but it's just so much faster than anything that a solo player can do, and honestly, I just feel like it's maybe a little bit in need of a nerf. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to recreate the strategy that I used for that run, hopefully shave off a little bit of time, because when I got that 35-minute time, it was my first attempt, so I'm hoping that with some optimization I can at least get it down to like 32 minutes, maybe? We'll see. But also I'm going to talk as we go through this about some problems I have with this being the meta strat. Now, one thing, if you've been following along with the generally recommended speed leveling videos over the last week or so, everybody is kind of gathering onto open world farms in heroic world tier, and there's a reason. It's broken. It's really broken. No matter which spot you use, there's so many good ones that people have suggested to me. Currently, the most popular one is Shield's Rest. I've seen a bunch of different YouTubers make videos about Shield's Rest already. Well, we're not going to be using Shield's Rest. We're going to be using this spot. Have you ever heard of this spot? Most people I've talked to haven't. It is a random spot in the middle of Azuna. And obviously, as we get into this, you'll get to see why it's so broken. And one thing you'll notice is this is a little bit different than a lot of the other speedruns I record, where I'm actually just recording my desktop and not actually showing like the WoW window. Because I am obviously boosting myself. It's the only way that you can get times this fast. So I have 3 different accounts here. I have 2 main World of Warcraft accounts that I actively play, both, even in retail. And my main Demon Hunter here is pretty geared. I have 740 item level, I have 174% verse, which may seem like a lot, but I have friends with like 3 to 5 times-ish that number, so in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much. I also do have 400% experience gain, which, contrary to what a lot of people seem to think, is actually very easy to get, and if you're wondering how to get that very easily, I have a video on that on my second channel. You just use starter accounts and farm the tokens extremely fast, so it's really not as bad as people seem to think. And then I also have this character here, which is my level 20 Brewmaster Twink that I have been working on. This guy isn't actually going to serve any real purpose in this run. He is purely here to help me summon. I just figured, may as well use this character because, little spoiler warning, I am also looking into level 20 Twinks. They are nowhere near as good as they were in MOP, but I do think they have some potential, and I will make a video on that probably next week, maybe on my second channel. We'll see. But right now, we're going to talk about this broken strategy. And I'm gonna kind of just jump into things, but I do need to get a little bit of stuff set up first. So I'm going to summon my character here when it enters world, which means that I need to drop a scroll of summoning beforehand just to have that ready. And then I have this macro, which invites my character. It just has like the character name. It should auto-invite them to the group. And I just need to be ready to go on that. So I'm going to get ready, enter worlds, and then I'm going to look at my window just to make sure it's ready to go. And then when the loading screen, I can see the loading bar is like about to finish, then that's when this should be good. Yeah, okay, we're good. Okay, I'm going to enter. Then I'm going to grab my artifact. And then while I'm grabbing my artifact, I'm going to send the summon. Okay. You have to wait in this little cutscene anyway, so it's going to take a little bit. There's going to be a slight delay. Now, I have the summon here, but I'm not going to take it just yet, because you do still need to manually turn on Heroic World Tier. So I will need to fly over and do that. I don't need to do any of the other quests. They are completely irrelevant. I'm going to take the summon here, and then I'm going to kick I'm going to wait until my rogue shows up, just in case I need to resummon again. I'm going to close the window for my other account, and then we are a go. I also forgot to use my scrolls again, so I'm going to do that on the fly. And, alright, here we go. So, I'm not gonna, like, talk through everything that you're seeing, right? Because it should end up being pretty straightforward what is happening. But these sea giants are really good XP. Like, extremely good XP. And something that you'll start to see is they also hyperspawn. So you can see my rogue's already gotten 2 levels. It's basically, at this point, it's like 1 level per kill for these sea giants at the early levels. And I'm going to kill this 3rd one, and then another one immediately respawns. And I've positioned my rogue carefully in that tree so that it's perfectly in range of all of these different sea giant spawns, so I don't even need to do anything. It just sits there, and I just kill these. That's it. It's just a boosting strategy. And honestly, it really is that simple. I'm even going to, like, I could save time, right? I could not loot these guys to, you know, shave off a few seconds here and there. Honestly, if I'm gonna do this, I may as well farm infinite power, right? And the thing about this, there's a lot that I want to say, right? And we're gonna have at least 30 minutes as I mindlessly kill mobs to sit here, and yeah, as I always do in my speedruns. But the problem with the speedrun is it's... I mean, I honestly, I don't think it's very interesting. A lot of times, when I do my speedruns and I get, like, you know, a world record, right? I'm really happy with the world record and I'm really proud of it. And, like, a lot of effort went into making it really good. I just generally dislike mob grinding strats. I don't think this is really fun. This is really interesting. You know, are you excited by this, like, riveting gameplay of watching me kill the same 3 mobs over and over? I can't imagine you are. I cannot imagine that this is, like, you know, a top-tier viewing experience. And that's kind of one of the problems I have with this being the optimal speedrun strategy. It also... it feels weird that, like, the best leveling method is to basically have somebody else level for you. And I know some people will say, like, oh, but, you know, that wasn't that mob remix, right? And I think there's going to be a lot of people who will argue that, and will say that this is basically the same thing that we were doing in Mop Remix, so, like, why do I care? And there's a few reasons, right? For starters, the time that, whatever time I ended up getting, that you'll see on, like, the title or thumbnail or whatever, it's just obscene. It is absolutely ridiculously fast. And for something that is this mindless, I don't think it should be that fast. It's extremely close to the sub-30 mop time that we got. And I think a lot of people who didn't really, like, thoroughly watch that video, maybe just kind of saw the time and didn't pay attention to it, didn't really understand what was going on. And, like, I had a lot of comments on that run basically being like, oh, I can't believe you, like, posted a video of yourself getting boosted. Like, you know, such skill, or whatever. But the reality with, like, that sub-30 Mop Remix strat is we spent a month, our entire team, planning that. And a lot went into that. I had to do so much planning. We had multiple different teams. Each team had to practice their jobs. And we had to, like, make sure that every single segment was perfect, because you can't, like, practice the whole thing in one sitting. And there's, like, all these different, like, interconnected parts, and I just kind of had to hope that, like, my napkin math was right, that, like, if we did all of this stuff perfectly, that it would result in this sub-30 time. And, honestly, the other interesting thing about Mop Remix is there was actually a decent amount of menuing required on my end as the person getting boosted, because the thing about Mop Remix is you had to get the threads as you went. You didn't just start off with a colossal XP bonus. You started off with, what, like 100% or something like that? And you could get additional experience as the run went on, but it required you to have, it required you to pick up the threads in the ground. So we had to route in the raids, because the raids are really important, because, you know, they gave big XP threads. So even if, like, it wasn't extremely efficient to kill a boss, we would have to do it just because, oh, this boss gives, like, a big XP thread, so it boosts the gains of all the other stuff. And then we had to do a lot of math on, like, the mailbox thing. And the mailbox strat was, like, a little bit controversial. Obviously, it doesn't work this time around in Legion Remix. I've seen a lot of people saying, like, oh, thank goodness that it doesn't work. It was definitely a bit of a weird one. The way that I see the mailbox thing is it was really unintuitive, and I'm glad they removed it just because mechanics like that, where if you don't know about it, you're kind of like at a massive disadvantage and there's just no real way that you're going to stumble upon it yourself, I do think it's good for that to be taken out. And although it was really fun to like figure out the math behind that, and like you know, somebody in my Discord, who one of the people who helped me with the run, made like a really detailed spreadsheet that broke down like the exact times where we should open the mailbox, like what was the perfect trade-off of if you did X amount of dungeons and raid bosses, when can you open the mailbox and be okay, if you had whatever XP bonus, like there was so much that went into that. So even though it was like, yeah, you're getting boosted, it really weren't. Because like the pure boost runs in Mop Remix were like 50 minutes-ish, which is still lightning fast, right? But that's like hyper-optimized boost runs. But in order to get that time, we had to do really, 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 really crazy stuff that required a team of 13 people, and I'm getting a comparable time to that in this run, completely on my own, just killing mobs mindlessly while the actual character being leveled is completely AFK, and I just think that's kind of lame, to be honest. I don't really like that. So yeah. I think that's one of the key differences. The other small thing is I've always been very against open world mob grinds, because one of the nice things about Mop Remix is whenever, like, dungeons are the meta. Let me just double check, move my rogue. I had a weird issue, so this is technically the second time I'm recording this particular segment. I don't know what caused it, because I wasn't actively paying attention to the rogue, but there was at one point I just stopped gaining experience for like 4 minutes. I think it was something weird where like I accidentally clicked a pylon, and the pylon summoned like an NPC guardian that was like sniping my kills and causing them to get no XP. I couldn't say for sure, but now of course I'm like super paranoid and I'm constantly double checking like, okay, is my rogue actually properly getting experience from this? But I don't know. This, as you can see, requires much less time to set up. And the bigger issue with this is I really hope that the takeaway from this, and the reason why I'm making this a video in the first place, I don't want the takeaway to be like, oh, hey, there's this really broken spot in Mizuna, because like I said at the start of this video, Shield Hill, it's like almost just as broken. And that one's already been talked about to death by a bunch of people. There's also a ton of other broken spots. There's a lot of broken spots in Suramar. I'll be nice and I won't like outright reveal that, even though it is kind of an open secret at this point, but there's like a really powerful buff that you can get, which makes a lot of Suramar farm spots really, really, really broken. Even if you're soloing it without a booster, because you can just kind of one-shot everything on your own. But, like, there's so many different, extremely ludicrously overpowered open-world farms. The issue is not all of these individual farms. And Blizzard has a really bad problem when it comes to nerfing the symptom. I'm just going to move my rogue just because, like I said, very paranoid that I'm going to be out of range of kills or something. I still don't know exactly why I stopped gaining experience earlier, but Blizzard will nerf the symptoms a lot of times, and they won't actually nerf the problem itself. So I feel like Blizzard's going to see all these people using these open world farms, and they're going to see this, and they're going to think, oh my god, these open world farms are out of control, we need to nerf these specific spots, we're going to target this elite. And honestly, that's what they did early on for the infinite power farms. There were a bunch of really broken elite farms, and they were like, knee-jerk reaction, nerf all of these specific spots, but there's still a lot of extremely powerful open world infinite power farms. And then, in turn, they buffed the, like, the Arcway stuff, and now people are just chain running that. So, it didn't really solve anything. They even did, like, the Frog Farmer rollback, and that has just accomplished absolutely fuck all. So, I hope that they can watch this. And the real takeaway that I want to give is that something needs to be done about Heroic World Tier and the mob XP bonus. Because something that has been frustrating me to no end, and I want to preface this by saying, if you like Heroic World Tier, and you've been having fun with it, because it seems a lot of people are, I don't want to take that away from you, I don't want to say that your feelings are invalid, and that you shouldn't find it fun. A lot of people seem to think it makes leveling more engaging, and if that's your feeling and you want it to stay, and it should, I'm not saying it should go away, like, for good, just that it needs to be tuned better. But if you really like it, more power to you. But I keep seeing a lot of posts from people saying, oh, open heroic world tier is, like, amazing, they should add it to retail, and I just keep thinking, God, please no. Please, God, no. Do not add this shit to retail, because as it currently is, I'm all for more difficult open world stuff, but this is not the way. This is not how you make the open world more engaging, more difficult. Heroic world tier is just a disaster in terms of how it's implemented, because the problem is, it's a massive XP modifier. So you're heavily incentivized if you want to level to use it. Now, if it was a moderate thing of, like, you know, decent risk-reward, then I would understand. But as it stands, there's really just no decision-making. There's basically 3 asterisks by the 3 different situations where you can use heroic world tier. For the vast majority of people, it's going to be situation 1 where you enter it, you get your teeth kicked in, and you're just like, okay, this is not worth it. I'm just not killing things fast enough. This is not actually saving me time. I'm going to switch back to normal. That is kind of how it is for basically everybody the first time they level in Legion Remix. It's how it was for me. It's just not worth it. Man, stupid Dreadlord was out of range. And then there was what I would say, like, the asterisk, like the technically second thing of you're playing a tank, you have at least some gear, and for the middle levels you switch to heroic world tier, and you're able to survive big pulls. You know, if you're an experienced tank player, you can make it work, and that is kind of like the perfect risk-reward, kind of. You actually feel like, oh, it's slightly more dangerous, and I'm being rewarded for taking on these more dangerous pulls. That's, I think, what Blizzard wants heroic world tier to feel like, but the reality is, if you're not a tank spec, you're just fucked for that. And then there's the third situation, which is this. Which is, if you create a situation where mob kill XP is buffed by a massive amount, but boosting is a thing that people can do, well, then you're just going to end up in a situation where why would anybody even try to do the thing the intended way and have this challenging open world experience when you're in a mode like Legion Remix, where you could get ridiculous power gains? Why would I even try to farm anything on heroic world tier like the intended way, quote-unquote, when this is how the game mode's designed, and you're able to get, like, this obscene level of power? And the problem is, my Demon Hunter's power is not even as crazy as a lot of other people. You know, if you may have seen the post of, like, the Chinese people who have, like, absolutely ridiculous artifacts. They're at, like, 99 or 999 power already. Imagine if one of those Chinese players were to come to this farm spot and use it. They would mop the floor with my leveling speed. Because they would just be one-shotting these mobs that take me, like, you know, 10 seconds to kill. They'd probably level in half the time, and I guarantee you that after I post this, right, somebody's gonna come here and probably level faster than me, and that's fine, right? Honestly, that's why I'm raising awareness of this. I'm not doing this to be like, hey, look at my super fast leveling time, because this isn't really anything special. I just happened to stumble upon a really broken spot, and now I'm using it. I'm using it to do this really degenerate farm. And I don't know, I just think this is kind of lame. And at the very least, in the case of, like, you know, mob remix, dungeon boosting and stuff, I went over how I felt like it, you know, it was more interesting and stuff like that, but one of the advantages of there being so many level 20 twinks or even, you know, level 70 twinks running around in mob remix is anybody normal who's just trying to, like, level their own characters through dungeons, half the time you ran into a twink because so many of them were just running dungeons nonstop. They would be boosting one of their own characters, and then you just got a free ride. It's a win-win. But that's not going to happen in open world farms, and in fact, with open world farms, you're disincentivized from bringing other people because it actually gives you less experience the more people you have. So there's no reason to actually do that. It's kind of lame. I don't know why the Dreadlords sometimes will just attack farther away. So yeah, it's problematic in that sense, at least I feel. And to be honest, I'm trying to talk about this stuff. The problem is I already did a recording, and I'm really tired right now. I'm really, really, really tired. I haven't slept in a while. I was doing a bunch of testing, and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this one final test spot, and then I'm gonna go to sleep, and then it turned out to be this one. And I'm just like, well, shit. In fact, I had already gone to sleep. I went to sleep, and then, like, 30 minutes after I fell asleep, my dogs were barking, like, extremely loudly. They woke me up. They just would not stop barking, and I just could not go back to sleep. So I'm just like, alright, look, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna, like, test some of the, like, spots that I was, like, interested in, and then we go to sleep. We found this. Lucky me! Right? So, I guess this is probably a good time to talk about, you know, why am I making this video, right? I kind of heavily debated what to do with this. It's always a tricky situation when you find a farm spot like this, because I'm sure there's some people out there who are already using this. Hell, the time that I end up getting this video, somebody may have already beaten it. That's okay. And if they did, they're probably really fucking pissed at me for making this video, because they're like, oh, this asshole Harldan, it's just ruined my farming spot and shown it to the entire world, and now Blizzard's gonna nuke it from orbit. And if you are that person, I am deeply sorry. And that's like I said before, I hope the takeaway from Blizzard is not, this spot is really broken, we need to nerf this spot. I hope the takeaway is that we need to make adjustments to how Heroic World Tier works. But also, when it comes to making this video, I kind of thought about it, and you know, it's currently Sunday at the time of recording, and Blizzard's not doing that many changes on the weekend. I feel like they might do some changes when they get back into the office, and honestly, I kind of hope that they do nerfs to this stuff. So I figured, in case they're already planning to nerf open world farming, then it might be good for me to get this video out now, because now I can showcase the best open world farms, so at least in the next 12 hours or so, before they do the inevitable nerf, you can benefit from an even better spot than Shield's Rest. And because it's a hyperspawn, I should note, it actually probably wouldn't be bad if multiple people were here. I can't say for certain, but I suspect it really wouldn't be that much of an issue. But also, in case they somehow aren't aware of this, I want to make sure it's on their radar, because I really do hope that this does get nerfed. And I also really hope, as always, Blizzard a lot of times just whacks things and then doesn't address anything else. Well, I've said it a bunch of times now, I think this should be nerfed. I also do think that compensatory buffs to other stuff should be given. Honestly, I think quest XP, just across the board, should be increased. Quests right now, not like Infinite Research. Infinite Research actually is really good, and if it wasn't for the fact that it just ends up being slower to grab Infinite Research most of the time, having to like TP back and forth with this, Infinite Research is really good. It's just a difficult spot because of that. And there's also not really that many good Infinite Research quests that like synergize with this. Like Infinite Research with Dungeon Spam is great. And one of the main reasons Dungeon Spam, I guess, I mentioned this in my previous recording, I have to try to remember what I have and haven't talked about. But I did a pure Dungeon Spam test run, and it was 1 hour 13 minutes. Which, honestly, not bad. That's like a pretty decent time, right? It pales in comparison to this. And the main thing about that is the Dungeon Spam isn't necessarily super fast. It's the fact that if you're really good at, like, optimizing the Infinite Research, which a lot of people I've found don't realize that you can, like, set a preference, you can re-roll every time you turn in. A lot of people don't make use of that. And if you're aggressively re-rolling, you can pretty easily line up a bunch of Infinite Research quests that will, like, synergize with the dungeons you're running. So, yeah, dungeons may not be the best experience, but you're getting, like, this big chunk of experience every time you finish one. In my test run, where I did almost pure heroic dungeons, basically every single heroic dungeon I ran, I had an Infinite Research to go along with it for complete a heroic dungeon. Now, part of that is luck. I did get very lucky. You can usually guarantee it, like, most of the time, but every now and then you're bound to just all your rerolls with that you don't get the heroic dungeon quest. So the fact that I didn't whiff a single time was good. But I've seen people say it feels impossible to stack with your research. Not really. The hardest part with that stuff is the very first set of quests. Is the very first set of quests you only get one free reroll. You don't have any other quests to turn in. It can be a little bit tricky. Beyond that, you'll usually be able to cycle through it pretty good. There's also, I think, another issue, right, is the... there's an account-wide achievement for, I think, 150 infinite researches account-wide, I believe is the number. And if you get there, then your infinite researches will start giving you this item, Stack of Chrono Queries, which gives you another free reroll. So not only do you get one free reroll on every turn-in, but you get that item, which gives you extra free rerolls. So then, if your turn-in whiffs, you can use those. And then every turn-in gives you another one of those items, so it, like, compounds really nicely. But I feel like if people are just getting started and they haven't unlocked that yet, then yeah, it does feel a little bit more restrictive. But once you've unlocked that, and once you've gotten to the point where you're consistently getting Chrono Queries and getting turn-ins to, like, cycle through it, it feels pretty good. And actually, I feel like if that was Legion Remix leveling, it's still really fast, right? Like, 1 hour. That's great. But you don't even need to interact with that system for this. There's, like, a lot of cool optimization there, and it's completely absent from this run. Which is a shame, I feel, because I think the infinite research thing, out of, like, all of the changes from Mop Remix, I would argue that's my favorite part. I really like what they did with that. Also, what's my played to 70? / played 22 minutes so far. Pretty good. Now I'm gonna be worried because, like... let me look at my XP. Because, like I said, I'm really, really, really paranoid. This should get me to 71. Yep. Getting spawns across the map. This is the one slightly annoying thing about this farm. Sometimes you just get, like, amazing spawns. They're just back to back to back. And then other times it's this. Okay, level 71 was where it didn't work out. Just trying to see. Okay. I did get credit, but yeah, it's... Was it, Yeah, there's something weird about this level. Okay. You know what? Something weird about, like, level 71 is, like, bugging things out. And before you say it, the XP buff, the thing that makes it so it's, like, do this, Nostwin's Voucher. You get this buff, right? Moritari's Infinite Wisdom. That is irrelevant. I've seen so many different clickbait YouTube videos saying, oh, you need to make sure you don't miss this 250% XP buff. Pointless. Irrelevant. It does not change anything. You get it automatically the moment that you are at this level. But I'm going to... Brace your own legends. I don't remember exactly which ones are which. I'm gonna do, like, one quest here, literally just to get this extra bonus, because I think because this level, for whatever reason, this one particular level is bugged, it'll just be faster to do this. Running the Isles. Yeah, because, like, look at how much XP that gives. As weird as it is, that actually is faster. Will this insta-complete? No, I think there's some roleplay. Haven't really ever played a rogue in Remix yet, so... yeah, it's probably gonna... Yeah, we'll just take the return. And just eat the minor time loss. What do we have for played? Can't see. It fixes itself after one level. / play 25 minutes, so be it. It's weird, because I don't remember this happening when I did my previous run. the 35-minute test, but maybe I did something differently. We'll see if this affects anything. My cooldown's fully reset, so, you know, we'll call that calculated. I think at the very least, turning and uniting the Isles made that worth it. There's a bunch of other kind of interesting tricks that I know of that could theoretically optimize this even further and save, like, a few more minutes. I mean, hell, like, one trick I know could very, very, very easily just skip that entire level. But thing is, those tricks are kind of, you know, like infinite research, actually interesting things. Oh, there we go, we got past the roadblock, 71. And then if I look at my XP, you can see it's back to normal now. Maybe I just need to, like, exit the zone and re-enter at that point, and it fixes it. Weird. Weird, weird, weird. But yeah, like, there's so many cool things that you could do, and when I was discussing this trick with a few people who I did the sub-30 mock remix run with, they were on that team, they helped me with it, they had a bunch of really cool suggestions, and I tried a lot of their suggestions, I'm like, oh yeah, this works, this is actually really cool, and they were like, oh, if you do this, you can maybe save a few minutes even off your time, but kind of my problem is, I want them to nerf this. I want Legion Remix leveling to still be fast, but be way more engaging and force you to actually interact with the mechanics. And I think if we use those tricks to save time here, then I'm worried they're going to get caught in the crossfire, even if they don't deserve to be, because Blizzard's just going to see this video and be like, okay, this is really broken, we need to just gut everything that he shows in here. So I'm only doing the mob farming here basically just to show this is the problem. It's the open world, heroic world tier shit. That is why this is really broken. Nothing else. Not so great spawns recently. I have, like, a theory that the order in which you kill the first few dictates, like, their respawn order. I don't know. It honestly may just be random. They're consistently spawning in, like, the same pattern, though. Which is kind of why I was thinking that. Like, the next one should be along the cliff, right? No, it's the far one. Yeah. This sucks, because that's, like, a lot of extra travel time. I'm gonna start detonating my Dreadlord ASAP. Just to save a little bit of time, because it keeps going out of range and then wasting. It's like I'm trying to use, like, the actual Dreadlord damage and then detonate it on the second sentry, but because it keeps being slightly out of range, I end up just losing the Fellspike damage anyway. So it's just kind of a waste. This one again. It's kind of funny, man, like, Havoc Demon Hunter, oh boy. You would think, like, as somebody who generally only plays tanks in retail, these days I'm branching out, but historically I've loved tanks. It's the main thing that I play. So you imagine Remix is like heaven for me. Tank meta, but man, Havoc in this just feels so fucking fun. I played a Havoc in Mop Remix, it was amazing there too. I'm playing it again here, and it's just as fun. Come on, good spawn. Oh man! I lose out on the Dreadlord because of that. This is brutal. we're 76. I don't remember what my play time is right now, but High Beam is enough to finish. Yeah, I can save Essence Break. Hit Grand Expedition Yak instead. Should have done Blade Dance because I just Essence Break, so yeah. I'm gonna be honest, my brain is sort of fried right now. I know, like, excuses, but also I really didn't want to have to record this twice. The fact that I had to do yet another recording session, I'm sure that there's going to be something that, you know, I'm forgetting to mention that I wanted to talk about. I guess, you know, kind of to finish up as we go here, I'm really worried. Why am I still 76? I think it's just... So, one of the obvious problems that I have with this, on top of everything, is because this boost method basically requires you to have a level 80, at least in Mock Remix with like level 20s, I actually made a leveling guide showcasing how to set up a level 20 Twink, and explained why that was really good, and how you could do it too. And in that case, it was a little bit different. Partially, and I've talked about like some of the differences that I found to be more enjoyable with that, but one of the key differences as far as guides are concerned is because it was a starter edition account, and it took like barely any time to get your level 20 Twinks in a like boosting ready. In Mock Remix, I did a video where I did a speed run from level 20 Twink creation, starting obviously at level 10, leveling it to 20, gearing it, and then after gearing it, boosting a completely separate character from 10 to 70, just to showcase, like, literally how long does it take from level 20 Twink character creation to not only set the Twink up, but get a character to max level. And it took me like 6 hours, which, you know, may seem like a lot, but considering that is the entire setup process, and beyond that point, it's like a 1 hour time for every future character. So you invest like 4-ish hours to getting this character set up, and then you can consistently level in 1 hour, over and over and over and over and over. That's really good. So it's pretty minimal investment. But this, I mean, I've sunk a ton of time into this character. And a lot of the other open world farms are kind of similar. They require you to have geared characters. Level 20s just simply do not cut it anymore. And that's a shame, because it means that this isn't really a viable leveling method for, you know, the average player. Which means also this, you know, would be silly to make a leveling guide on this. It's like, kind of what I said before, what's the leveling guide gonna be? Is it going to be just, you know, pay somebody to boost for you? That would be kind of silly. And boosting has obviously always been, like, a prevalent thing, right? You have, like, you know, Siren Isle, Brackenhide Hollow, Knockadon Hold, like, they've been around for a while, but I've always felt like, in my speedruns, I've been able to come close to those times, and have routes where, like, I can put up, like, a really good speedrun time with it, but if people follow those routes, they can get, like, good times themselves. It won't be as fast as mine with all my super optimized gear, but it's still something that anybody can do. If you watch my video, if you learn the strat, you can pick it up. It's an extremely simple strategy, obviously, but it's not something that everybody can do, because you need to have the gear. It's as if, like, I made a leveling strat that required you to have all the speedrun items, which is the implication that a lot of, you know, disingenuous commenters will believe. They'll be like, oh, so the strategy only works if you have, like, you know, all these auction house items and gun shoes, and it's like, no, it's just the route. But in this case, oh, it is all of those. It is all of the farming. That is what makes this viable. So, it just makes it really difficult to recommend this. So now I'm kind of in this awkward position of, like, well, what do I do for a leveling guide? No matter what I recommend, it's going to be like, hey, yeah, you could do this, but it's just slower. I guess I could say, for starters, something that I'm probably going to do tomorrow is, I've been putting it off for a while, but I'm going to do another first character leveling run. So I have my European account, and I don't have anything on it. I haven't played Legion Remix on it at all. And I'm going to play that character, my very first one, and see how quickly I can get 10 to 80 just from scratch. Zero boosting, just completely solo leveling, basically doing kind of the same stuff I did on my first run on North America, except more optimized, given everything that I know now. And, like, we'll get to see how quickly that can be. Nice, I got my first fucking Doomguard pylon right at the end here, when it doesn't matter. That's actually crazy. Literally, Flash played, what is it? 36 minutes. Okay, wow, that's crazy. It was actually a little bit slower than my first run. I think because of the level 71 hiccup, I really don't know why I did not encounter that on my first time. At least I was prepared for it. Like, my recovery of, like, turning in the quests meant I ended up only being about 1 minute behind my first attempt at this. But yeah, I mean, you can get around that, right? You just do something else for, like, that one level and then come back to this. I think, honestly, it might be the case of you just zone out and zone back in, and that fixes it. I don't know why it broke, specifically the scaling. Like, everything else, you can see the scaling consistently works. And then it was just that random point at level 71 where the mobs just stopped giving experience. Something weird happened with the scaling there, and then it just went right back to normal and started scaling properly. So, I don't know why it didn't happen my first test. Same thing happened when I just did the recording, like, about 30 minutes ago or so. I ran into that problem. The issue is I didn't notice it. It was basically after 4 minutes of yapping, I looked and I'm like, wait, why am I still level 71? And then I was like, something broke here. So that's why I was hyper fixating on it this time around. But it's good to know that I was speculating, like, oh, is it like a mob that I summoned specifically at that time? It seems it's just a level 71 thing. It breaks. And again, Moritari's Infinite Wisdom, the 250% XP buff, nothing to do with it. Just to be absolutely abundantly 100% clear, I've seen so many videos. Oh, don't miss this buff. You literally cannot miss the buff. It is automatically applied to your character. The quest is purely cosmetic. It does not matter at all. But, I mean, honestly, I could sit here for a while and continue to rant about my problems with this leveling method and my problems with just open world boosting in general and how I think this sucks. But, I've done that to death, and honestly, I'm very tired, and even after I finish recording now, I still gotta make the thumbnail and stuff, so yay! But I will continue testing. I will get that fresh account run out for people who are still trying to do normal remix leveling their first time around. And honestly, I'm open to suggestions. If you are watching this video, obviously, and you want a leveling guide, how do you want me to structure it? My current idea is I'm thinking of just basically making it like a summary of all of the different methods. Of like, here are all of the different things that I've tested. This is X time, this is Y time. So, open world boosting, extremely broken, it's this time, but here's the downsides. Dungeon spam, I did it in 1 hour, 13 minutes. Here's what you need to make it work, blah, 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 blah. And then I talk through some of the other more miscellaneous strategies, like, LFR, running raids. Raids are a bit weird now, because they're obviously going to be more efficient later in the event. We have access to more raids, so it's like, it's hard to accurately test that right now, but I've at least tried to, like, weave in Emerald Nightmare and stuff like that and see, like, what the exact difference is if you include that. And then there's some weird quirks that I'm not going to talk about here with raids that could potentially be broken, but I need to do it more testing, and I don't want Blizzard to nerf it until I finish testing it, so who knows? But there's, like, so many different things and so many different cool ways to level, but they're just all overshadowed by this. So, that is currently how I think I'm going to approach the leveling guide. If you have suggestions, let me know. But what I really do hope is that somebody at Blizzard takes a look at the XP bonus. Honestly, I genuinely think, cut the XP bonus in half. Right? Just make it so Heroic World Tier gives you half of the current XP bonus that it gives. And then buff the experience from a lot of different sources. And to compensate, like, maybe you get less experience, but you get more infinite power or something like that. So your you're leveling slower, which discourages this boosting strat, right? Because look at my character's infinite power. Oh wait, I have none, because I haven't looted anything. So, having a really high XP value encourages boosting. But if you make it so you get, like, maybe instead of 500% to everything, it's like 200% mob kill XP, but like 1000% infinite power gains in the open world. That way, it not only counteracts like arcway boosting, maybe open world farms for infinite power at max level are more valuable, and it encourages you to level up if you're actually leveling the intended way, because then if you're looting mobs, getting infinite power, your character becomes stronger, so it helps you keep up with the difficult scaling. So it basically encourages you to play the way that they want you to play, instead of doing this dumb crap, right? There's lots of different ways they can fix it. I think the initial implementation of Heroic World Tier is incredibly lazy, and it's entirely what leads to this problem. It's not the farms, it's entirely on the bonus itself. It needs to be addressed. So I hope they do that. I hope that they do that soon, so that I can take that into account when making my guide, which I've been, trying to get out, but then I keep running into problems like this, where I'm like, yeah, but then what about this really broken strategy? How do I factor that in? So we'll see. But yeah, that's the leveling run. There you go. I felt that this was important to bring your attention to. I'll stop yapping, because God knows I can do that for as long as I want. And hopefully you enjoyed watching this, even though I am incredibly sleep deprived and probably wasn't as entertaining as I'd normally like to be. Sorry for that. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.